Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Vented Uplift. I am Chrisie Canny, the CEO of Vented in Brooklyn, the aromatherapy. Can we say that? Yeah, the aromatherapy jewelry company with the mission of giving back. Through 6 years of donating to cancer patients and going out and meeting so many amazing women, I decided to have them all on and come on and share their stories. So we're bringing on different women who either have breast cancer or are just amazing entrepreneurs, or maybe both. And today we have on Christina Miner, who is kind of both, who I met in a group of, she's an entrepreneur and a breast cancer survivor. So we're going to bring her on and talk, but it's one day. It's one day to Magnificently Made gets released. So that's exciting in our lives. So go support the 33 women and the amazing stories. In here is the chapter about my son when he was born and he had open heart surgery. So let's bring on, I was just said that all really quick. Let's bring on Christina Miner and have a talk. We've been talking already, so I know it's going to be a great one, and I'll introduce her formally when she's on. Okay, then we're going to then we have my, I think I'm cool, my podcast song. No. Christina, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. You are very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's see. So let's give your official title and everything. All right. So Christina Miner, breast cancer survivor, transitional coach, and podcaster of Our Scars Speak. And I also just learned that you used to be an actress too. So
yes, I did a little bit of acting, not too much, but
okay. Let's see. Christina Miner is a woman of God, wife, mother, grandmother, and a person full of compassion and love, trying to live life to the fullest. She has a bachelor's degree in sociology and is completing her master's in clinical mental health counseling. Impressive. Additionally, she is a registered qualified mental health professional with the Board of Counseling in Virginia, a sought-after speaker and minister, and works alongside various organizations. Here for the Girls, Inc., as a co-facilitator for the newly diagnosed group, and Know Your Lemons as of Lemonista Breast Education. I just found that organization. I guess it was suggested to me because, oh no, you posted it. Oh. You just posted that thing. It's going to be one of those Fridays.
That's okay.
First patient advocate, transitional coach, and the founder of Our Scars Speak. I'm going to let you do your diagnosis. And then her podcast is simply amazing. I just started listening to it, and she just wants to put information out there. So hi, Christina. Thank you for coming on.
You are very welcome. You're very welcome.
So tell everybody, we could talk about, what do you want to talk about? Diagnosis first, or who it is, or how it transitioned, or tell everybody a little bit about yourself. How about that?
Wow, that story is something else.
We'll get there.
So a little bit about myself, really, truthfully, you just summed it up, but to give a little bit far as more personable, I'm from Swansboro, North Carolina, which is a little town between Emerald Isle and Camp Lejeune, if you know where those areas are. And so I lived like right on the water all my life, love the water. And I love life. I haven't always been able to say that, but I do. I love life, and I'm just trying to live it and trying to spread as much information that I possibly can out here in this wonderful world, and to be myself, my authentic self in doing that, because sometimes I think that we get lost in what we see on social media, like we just discussed not too long ago. We get lost in so many things that we see, or so many things that people have to say in their perception, that we lose ourselves. So one thing I don't ever want to do again, because I have been that lost person, is to lose myself ever again.
I love that. So I started listening to your podcast, and what was interesting is that you were a breast cancer advocate before you were diagnosed as well.
Absolutely.
Did you have a feeling?
I did. Basically, I would say after I had my daughter, I tried to breastfeed. That didn't go over too well, because I thought, well, actually, she got sick, but then I thought that I was having an, infection, gorged breast or whatever. So I kept on having pain. And from that point on, from having those issues, it just spiraled. Like every year I was asking about my breast. I was like, something's wrong. They feel lumpy. So they finally did, when I was like 26, do a mammogram, and they showed me I had dense tissue. Well, back then it was early 2000s, like 2002, I think. they didn't offer the ultrasound. That was, that's new now. So he just told me about dense tissue, but I still didn't have a clear understanding. And mind you, I worked in the medical field before as a nursing assistant level 2. So I had that certification. I worked on all floors. I knew this doctor, so I trusted him. I trusted all the doctors in my area because I worked with them. And when he showed me that, I didn't work cancer patients though. I was in ICU, CCU, ER, but I still had some medical knowledge. So I was like, okay, I'll keep abreast of it. I didn't have any family history. I was 20-some years old at the time. They were like, you're young. You don't have any family history. You should be okay. But just pay attention to that dense tissue. Years kept on going by. It just got worse. So as it became worse, I was introduced not too long ago, probably about 2012, 2013, to a friend of mine who ended up being a mentor to me. And she's like, hey, I want you to come to these breast cancer events with me. And she was just kind of grooming me, really like teaching me, because I was confiding in her what was going on. And she's like, you've got to get it checked. I was like, I am. I just don't keep on saying nothing's wrong.
So let's be a little more specific. So other women out there who are like, it was a constant like throbbing pain. Was it, what was it?
So it started out as inverted nipples, actually. And my nipples were inverting and then they were coming back out. So I was told, that's okay. That can happen sometimes. Then I had pain, and the engorgement was basically like the left breast was larger than the right breast. And so I assumed initially infection. They couldn't find infection. But as years progressed, the inverted nipples kept on inverting, not coming out. Then I started having a little bit of leakage, a little bit of discharge, which I was like, okay, I haven't breastfeed since early 2000s. Now we're kind of like 2010. It's like, why is this happening? Then I also had hot to touch. I had a pulsating vein. The breast continued to get larger. I had itching.
And they all just kept telling this whole time. They're like, no, you're too young. They weren't listening to you being like.
They were not. And I had lumps, but they said that the lumps were fibrocystic. So it was always some form of no. 2015, when I had the pulsating vein that I could actually see, and it was very hot to touch. And the doctor, he didn't even touch me. He said, go get a mammogram and an ultrasound. I want you to have both. And that was 2015. And I did. And the radiologist denied me of my ultrasound. And that's when, at this point, when I've seen all these other symptoms, yes, you're right. Over the course of these years, I was like, I hope, this is what I would say to myself, I hope I don't have breast cancer, because if so, by the time they find it, I'm probably going to be a stage 4. So I was constantly going back and forth. When he did that, he said, come back in a week if you're still having pain. So I did. And he still denied me of an ultrasound. And that was in 2015. So from there, time progressed. 2019, I actually was having such pain. I leaned over the side of my bed and just cuffed underneath my breast, and there sat a lump. At that point, I'm like, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. There's no turning me back now. I'm going to fight till the end. No one's going to tell me I'm denied of anything at this point. So I go to the doctor, and the doctor, I could tell she was losing count of how many lumps she was finding in my breast. And I was like, the right side is feeling like the left one did back in early 2000s. She said, okay, but we have to get this left side checked out. So she sends me off to get mammograms, get ultrasounds. And of course, as you know, if you're sitting there and they're constantly going back and forth, room to room, they got you going, something's not right. It's like, this is probably the worst case scenario for me. And so from there, they did, to kind of speed it up for you, they did the biopsies. The biopsy report came back totally benign. And one thing that I want people to understand is that when you get a biopsy, it is really truthfully just a little bit of tissue. So basically, if the people on the podcast is not gonna be able to see this, but people online can, if the tumor's sitting here and they go like right beside it and there's no cancer over there, they're gonna pick up clean tissue from that clean area of margin, other than if they hit the actual tumor or like hit a piece of the tumor. So it was benign. So then the radiologist says, well, you know what? We found calcifications that look just like the ones in 2015. And I said, what do you mean? I wasn't told there was any calcifications, and what are they? And she said, well, sometimes the pattern of it can show us that it's possibly cancer. This pattern, it may or may not be. And then she also told me that there was an area that was like gray or shadowy, and she didn't know if it was a shadow or a ligament, but they didn't biopsy those two areas because she couldn't reach them. And I was like, okay, well, what do we do next? She said, wait 6 months, come back, see if it's grown. And I was like, no, I'm not waiting 6 months. No more. Not at all. So her reply was, you don't want me to continue to cut on you, do you? And I said, have you been through this? And she said, no. I said, well, don't tell me what you think I want. And we're not waiting 6 months. She said, well, you have to ask the doctor. And I'm like, that's fine. So, and meanwhile, I pull up the report that she's talking about from 2015, where he denied me my ultrasound, to see exactly what he said, because I went off of what I got from the mail, like we all do, like it's benign, or, no cancer. And you kind of I took that.
Like you don't have to follow up, like
right.
you're fine for whatever. Yeah.
Don't follow up. Dense tissue, keep an eye on it. Yet again, I'm hearing dense tissue. Okay. But then when I pulled his actual report and looked at it, it specified calcifications were found. Patient has pain, may need an ultrasound in like 3 months. I was never told that, ever. So I felt like in that moment, I couldn't concentrate on that, of course, because I got bigger issues now. When I went and I spoke with my breast surgeon. And when I spoke to her, I said, the radiologist is saying, come back in 6 months. I'm not trying to hear that. And she looked at me and she said, you know what, come back in 3. I didn't know her mother had breast cancer before. So she takes this very, it's very personal to her. So I came back, and sure enough, the areas had grown. When they seen that it had grown, the next step was biopsy, a biopsy that they hadn't done before. I was on my back. It was ultrasound guided. This time, I can't remember the name of it because I'm going to pronounce it wrong. But when they put your breast in the hole and you lay on your basically on your stomach, they did it that way. So she was able to grab the, what was it? She was able to grab the calcifications in that position, all of them. And she was also able to grab the tissue that she thought was a ligament, but come to find out it was not. This report comes back, ductal carcinoma in situ, stage 0, ER/PR positive with the grade 3. So it's growing. That's why it had grown so fast in those months. And I got the call from the radiologist, and she said, well, you have the best cancer you could have. And I'm like, who says that? I don't care that you think that. All I'm hearing is carcinoma, which is cancer. So yeah, so that was my diagnosis. And from there, of course, I had my consultation.
All right. And then what did you decide to do with your?
Well, at first, they give you all this information. She had a nice booklet and everything for me. And she told me you could have reconstruction. She told me about the cancer, where it was localized, and it was all in my ducts, like DCIS, but it was such a big area of DCIS. It was like basically all my ducts were full of cancer. And she said, there is a chance we could find invasive cancer, which they did not, but she said there was a good chance because I had been complaining for so many years. And so she was nervous about that aspect of it. And then also I was a grade 3. So it means it's growing really, really quick. So she ends up doing a double mastectomy because I told them the right side is changing and I need it gone. Like, I don't need to worry about it. So she said, no, you can keep it. I said, nope, take it. So they did a double mastectomy, and I wanted to do reconstruction. I wanted to have implants, and it just didn't work out that way for me. So I ended up having the surgeries. I got the surgery done. She ended up coming back. I still had the same diagnosis, but she did say to me that the right side was changing, and I probably would have been back within the year to possibly get a biopsy done. The left side, still, like I said, same diagnosis. The implants, now mind you, COVID's going on. I go home. I can't get rid of this low grade temperature that I keep having. I'm having
wait. I want to interrupt you. Now, no. Okay, so you had double mastectomy. Did you need to have radiation or chemotherapy?
No, I did not. Now, the reason being for that and I was not BRCA. I did not have a gene mutation. I want to make that clear as well. The reason why I did not choose a lumpectomy was because I knew I had been diagnosed even when I was the bill of health at 18 with hypertension. My family, my father's side has a lot of hypertension and cardiovascular things. I know some of the side effects of some of the medications, which I'm not against, because if I got diagnosed right now and had to go through chemo or radiation, if I can save my life, I'm going to do what I can. However, given that I knew that and I had an option with my diagnosis to either do a lumpectomy with radiation and tamoxifen from 5 to 10 years, or double mastectomy where I didn't have to go through any of that because of my diagnosis. And I'm stressing that because everybody's diagnosis is so different. Because of that reason, I decided to do a double mastectomy because I was just very leery of what the radiation and the tamoxifen could possibly do, given that I'm hypertensive and my vessels and my veins and stuff.
Yeah. So I had DCIS with microevasion, like stage 0.5, right? So, but I was always told dense breast, like 10 years, every 10 years, every 6 months, Mrs. Canny, we see something, Mrs. Canny, like constantly. So I chose a double mastectomy because I didn't want radiation and chemotherapy, but I was not offered that at first.
Really?
It didn't come out in like I'm like, okay, so, what do we do? And what are my chances? What's my recurrence rate? And it was like, well, you'll have a lumpectomy and then you'll have, 5 weeks of radiation and then you'll have tamoxifen for, 5 years. I'm like, yeah, I know that. And I think because, and then I'm like, yeah. And then there's a 28% chance of reoccurrence with your family history. And I went, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And besides, I have my boobs are like this big, and then I'm like, how much would you remove? Like, like a piece like this big. I'm like, no. So that's why I chose it. But I think because you and I both are very educated, because we're at these fundraisers and at these events and surrounded by women already, that's why you and I are both so avid about like educating other women that they know to ask. So to me, I went, well, what if I have a double mastectomy? What is my recurrence rate? Oh, well, then it's like under 2%. And I'm like, well, that's what we're going to do.
Yep. And that was, honestly, you brought up a good point, because my husband, I'm hearing carcinoma. I'm not hearing all this other stuff. I'm there, but I'm not there. So I always tell people to have somebody with you, or record record your meetings or your sessions with your doctors and your appointments, because I was there, but I wasn't. I thought I was till after the fact. And I started like, did she say this or did she say that? My sister's like, she did cover all that. But my going in was, what is it? How long do I have to live? Am I okay? Like, I wasn't even thinking about the staging. I wasn't thinking about the grade. All I heard was cancer. And I think in our society, we hear cancer, and that's the first thing we think about is, oh my God, are they getting ready to die? Or, is it stage 4? Because we hear a lot about, even, it's really weird. We hear a lot about stage 4, but they don't necessarily give a lot of money towards stage 4. And so we hear those stage sometimes 1 through 4, not so much about DCIS. So this was all new to me, and I was just like, how long? And I was more about survival. Okay, so my husband asked a good question, which I was like, thank goodness for him. He said, as she's trying to make her decision, what about recurrence? So when you said the 2%, that's when she broke it down. She's like, good question. And then she broke down if she does lumpectomy and radiation, I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks every day or something, 15 minutes. You know how the radiation goes. And then the tamoxifen, she was like, yeah, the percentage was higher. And because at first the survival was about the same, because they're going to give you the same amount of years for survival for everything, because they just put us in one big pool. But when she broke that down to that 2%, I was like, they got to go. It's like, they've got to go.
All right. So now, okay. So you decided to go. You decided that you wanted to have implants.
Yes.
And then, so you're having fevers, and so your implants had another plan.
Yes, they did. So basically, I didn't even get to implants. I got to the expanders. So I had the expanders in. COVID hits, and you can't go to the doctor. So I had a couple of feels. I had a few feels, but I kept on telling her like something's not right. It's tight. But at the point that she was giving me the feels, the fill-ins, which basically for any of those who don't know, when you have expanders, you have to go in and they actually inject your expander with saline ever so often until you get to the point of the size that you want. So it'll expand your skin. So as she did that, I was like, this is killing me. Like, I feel like I'm dying inside. Something's hurting. But she couldn't physically see with the naked eye what I was talking about because I hadn't gotten to that point yet. So I kept on going as much as I could. Then COVID hits. Can't go to the doctor anymore. Every day, my chest is changing. And it goes from looking like, okay, nice skin, to now it looks like I have burn marks all over my skin. It was very tight. It looked like my chest was gonna explode. Every day I was waking up, my left side primarily was really bad, which was where the cancer was. The right was changing as well, but she also left some skin underneath my arm, so she was gonna use that for reconstruction. That contorted, got tight, got dark black, like charcoal almost. And everything was just tight. It looked like leather, and it looked like I definitely lost some layers of skin. So I told her, I was like, if they don't lift, because she was going to try to get me into the OR as soon as possible. She couldn't do it because they had the restriction on, and they said that our surgeries, like we asked to get cancer, our surgeries were cosmetic. And I'm like, okay, so that was a whole nother aggravation. And I'm like, on top of all of that, what I'm seeing and feeling, I have the fever. I have a rash on my arms that I thought came from the sentinel lymph node biopsy dye, which did not. I had headaches. I have fatigue. I could barely walk. My joints were hurting. I could barely stand up. I felt like something was literally killing me. And I remember saying, what is killing me now after the cancer's gone? Like, what else is killing me inside my body? Never thought expanders. So I go.
You hear about like implant rejection,
right?
You're not thinking about like the metal. And
I never thought it. I never knew about it. Nothing. So when I'm telling her these things, she can't see anything, because even though we're on, lives and stuff, she can't really, because at one point you really couldn't see until I went to her doctor's office, and she's like, oh, but it still hadn't changed a lot. But the day of surgery, when they finally lifted, I was her first operation. The day of surgery, she looked at my chest. She said, oh my God, you have breast implant illness and you have capsular contractor. And it was a grade 4. So she was like, what do you want me to do? So we could try to do something. I said, well, if you don't think, I said, because I don't know about any of this. I said, if you don't think that's a good idea for me to have an implant, just leave me flat. I woke up and I was flat.
You were able to make that decision so quickly?
I had no other choice. I was hurting. I was in so much pain, and I didn't know so she was going into the OR. I didn't know what she was going to run into, but I had to let her know. I told her before she even did the operation, I said, I'm trusting God and you at this point, because I'm going to be asleep. So I need for you to make the best judgment calls if I was your mother or someone that you really think highly of, because I'm going to be asleep and I can't tell you, oh my God, no, just make me flat. So if you get in there and you realize that I probably shouldn't have anything in my body, I need for you to just make me flat. So I had to make a decision in that moment, I felt, because of the pain that I was going through and this temperature that wouldn't go away. And then I would eat and it would come right back out of my body, like literally. And she was like, okay. She said, but that's exactly what you have. And so then later I had looked up breast implant illness. I said, oh, you think I'm crazy? She's like, no. She said, some doctors think that. She said, but not me, because I've seen it too many times. So the capsular contractor, basically, just to let people know, our bodies form scar tissue around any foreign object in our body. But in this situation, my scar tissue didn't like that foreign object. So it produced a lot, and it was trying to push it out of my body. Wow. So much so that when she went down to cut me open, her depth perception was good on the right side. But when she got to the left side, where she thought the same perception, it was not. I had already lost layers of skin. So she kind of nicked the expander and it popped open on the OR table. So when I woke up, she said, I'm gonna let you know that you're flat. I will never put another foreign object in your chest. She said, you had a lot of damage. She said, and I won't even discuss reconstruction of any other kind until you're about a year out.
Wow. 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 Yeah, that's a lot to deal with. And then, the amazing thing is, like, if you go to Christina's Instagram, you will see a pinned photo of you totally topless and being proud to be flat, which is, I mean, like, congrats for you for being so bold and beautiful as well. Like, oh, look, do you have to go at any time? I'm realizing, like, we were just talking about this. I want to talk about your how with your faith.
Yes. Yes.
How did you feel challenged? Did you doubt your faith? How did you push through for somebody that's going through this and it isn't you and a minister or, like, how do you push through?
So I think it was November 18th of 2018, I was doing a devotion and God just put in my spirit, it is finished. And I was like, it's finished. Okay, well, it's finished. And it's like, oh, the blood of Jesus has finished and covered everything. There's power in the blood. It is finished. No matter what comes your way, it is finished. It is done. It's covered. You're okay. I didn't understand what that really meant. I just felt that I was supposed to hold on to that until he says otherwise. And of course, the next year I found out. That's why I had to hold on to that. In the moment of hearing that you have cancer, of course, the human side, it messed me up mentally because, as you know, you don't know what type of cancer you're really facing until you get that ultimate pathology report back from your surgeries. But I had to hold on to faith. And I went through a period. I've done different reels and stuff. And there's one where I'm sitting on the floor in my bathroom. And it was the night that I found out that I had cancer, because my first question was, what do you want me to do with this? And all I kept hearing God say was, share your story. So I believe in God, and some people don't, and that's fine too. But in scripture, it talks about the blood of the Lamb and the power of our testimonies is what helps people get saved. So I went on Facebook and I shared it all the same day that I found out. But then that night, I had time by myself and time with God to sit in my emotion, anger, rage, mad from 2015 of the doctor back then. I sat in sadness. I sat in hopelessness. I sat in every emotion that I possibly could go through. And I actually wrote a poem about it called My Scars Speak. And in that poem, I just say my scars speak pain. My scars speak, rage. And I just go down until my scars speak beauty. And the reason why I had gone through those emotions in that bathroom and I was journaling and I was praying was because I do not believe that we should turn away from our emotion. I think we should sometimes sit in it, process it, but don't dwell, don't live there. Because of all the trauma that I've had in my past with sexual abuse, I had been on drugs before I was functioning. I had been an alcoholic before. And I had been, when I'm talking about sexually abused, I was molested from the age of 5 through 11. I had been raped multiple times. Because of all of that trauma from years ago, I tapped into, how did I get through that? Even though at that time I didn't have God, he had me. And so when I ended up realizing later, as I came to him, that, okay, now you have me and I have you, let's do this. So every challenge that I have in my life, I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. I'm not going to say that I don't process it like anybody else. But at the same time, I have to tap back into faith, because if I don't, I will be very lost in that and I would be very paralyzed and won't move beyond it. So that's how my faith played a part in all of this.
Wow. Wow. So you've been through a lot in your life. Have you written a book?
I have one. I need to publish it. Yes. Yes. It's already done. I just have to publish it.
What are you waiting for?
Me. No, but hopefully this year, because it is done. I've gone through the editor. I've gone through another editor. So it's just about sending it to publishing it myself, because that's how I'm going to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's how most of us do it. Self-publishing, right. Yep. But I think your story needs to be heard.
Yeah. It's been a good life, yet a rough life. Like, I had a good family. I didn't come from a bad family or anything like that. I didn't come from any adversity on that end, poverty or anything of that nature. It was just the trauma of the sexual abuse and things that spiraled me out of control. But at the same time, I used those traumas to be able to say, okay, if I got through all of that, then I can definitely get through this, no matter whether I live through it physically or not. I'm not going to give up.
So what would you say? Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, if somebody's diagnosed today, what would you say to them?
I would tell them you have every right to feel how you feel. And I would let them process and share with me how they feel. And if they say, I hate this person, I hate God, I hate life, I would let them sit in that. I would let them say what they have to say. And I don't ever try to tell anyone what you're feeling is not justified at all, because that's not right. You have every right to feel how you feel. But if I do see you spiraling, and if you are a Christian, I'll try to bring you back to your faith or give you a scripture just to think about. But I think the biggest thing we can do is make people feel that what they are feeling, being a believer, makes them feel less. So sometimes in the body of Christ, I would specifically say that a lot of people feel like I can't say that I'm hurting or I'm in pain because people are going to think I have less faith. And that's not true. You're human. So I'll let people know, be human, be yourself, allow yourself to feel this. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry. But yet again, I would tell them, we don't need to stay there though. So let's try to figure out a way to not stay there. Whether it's you need to journal, you need to have a devotion time or meditation time or mindfulness. I would point them, try to get them to other ways of being able to truly process it in a more positive light.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes a while to get there.
Yeah. Is that what you did?
Yes.
Those are the tools you did to get through,
Yep.
right? You know, like I say over and over again, like you find strength by giving strength.
Yes.
Right? Like, you know, like, so when you can either share your story to inspire somebody or help another person through a situation, it's, you know, how you get through it. And I think that one thing that you said different, you know, the day you were diagnosed, that I see like a difference in people when, you know, yes, be angry at God, but like learn that everything that happens, you know, there's a lesson in everything.
Yep.
Right. And that, you know, and your path, and we don't know what we're supposed to do, but like you and I were both like in this breast cancer world and trying to share stories for people because we were lucky and fortunate that we knew all that already, that we were educated and, you know, had the support and knew. Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I think so as a coach, are you helping people? Do you specify like what kind of coaching you do? Are you doing with cancer, or like how do people hire you? What do you specialize?
So basically, because of what I've gone through, and then also education wise, I do transitional coaching. I don't want to ever do crisis coaching, because I think when you get to the point of having a crisis, you either need to see a therapist, a licensed professional, or you need to be an inpatient. So I don't mess with that too much, because I truly, I don't mess in that territory. I try to catch you before you go into crisis. So that's why I say transitional.
Okay.
And honestly, it's a number of people. I have people who they're having issues with transitioning. They're having issues with God. They're having issues. They just found out that they had cancer or they had some other disease. So any major transition in life is usually when people contact me like, hey, I got a problem. And I realized that throughout the years that people do confide in me prior to that, but a lot of times it's a major pivotal transition that's happening in their life. And I just try to help them, guide them through that process. And initially when people come to me, I just don't try to beat people up, because they have enough coming at them at one time.
All right. So how do people hire you? Where do they find you?
So you can find me at www.𝙝𝙚𝙚𝙡, and it's MINERLLC.com. That's my website. Or you can find me throughout social media at Christina Miner or at Our Scars Speak.
Yeah. And where can they find your podcast?
You can find my podcast at Our Scars Speak on YouTube and Facebook and all podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple.
Yeah. I was listening on Spotify this morning.
Yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, Christina, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. Hopefully we help somebody out there today,
Absolutely.
that needed to hear this and, maybe learn to be an advocate for themselves and just keep fighting. If you know something's wrong, you know your body. It is.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Hold on one second. All right, everybody, one more day, I'm going to be torturing you with a bunch of videos. It drops tomorrow. So you can find it if you're in Bay Ridge. You can go buy it already at the bookmark shop. And if you're around and want to come to my party tomorrow night, you're more than welcome. So have a great one. Monday, Magnificently Made. We are interviewing Susan Giacchi. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everybody.